Hello and welcome back to Simon's Rants. I'm Simon, and today I'm going to be giving my second thought on Batman Begins. Now, a quick spoiler warning: if you haven't seen this yet, you don't want anything spoiled, you can click away now. I am going to be going over the whole plot, so that's your warning. Now, Batman Begins, as you probably all know, is a 2005 film, the first of the Dark Knight trilogy, directed by Christopher Nolan, starring Christian Bale, Michael Caine, Gary Oldman, Liam Neeson, Cillian Murphy. It's got a great cast. Morgan Freeman, if I didn't already say that. It's a phenomenal cast. This is one of the best casts you could ask for. I know that a lot of people have complaints about Christian Bale's voice. And honestly, that's not even really an issue at all in this movie. Even if you dislike his voice in what do you think of the growl, the brah, where is it type voice, he doesn't really do that in this one, if you're not remembering that. He only really does it in his interrogation scene. Most of the time he's just whispering, which is fine. Aside from Christian Bale, the acting is phenomenal. Gary Oldman, of course, is one of the best actors working. He's great. And then you've got Michael Caine as Alfred, also great. Like, I can't say enough good things about this cast. They're all phenomenal. Now, the plot of this movie is also great, and it's often overlooked because of how good The Dark Knight was, but I think that Batman Begins is honestly the second best Batman movie ever made. Now, it does have some cheesy moments and a couple of plot holes I'll get to, but honestly, this movie, if The Dark Knight was never made, I would say is the best Batman movie ever made. I know that's probably an unpopular opinion, but I'm sticking to it. So the plot of this movie is it's an origin story of, Batman becoming Batman. So you go through the whole parent killing thing, but this is the first movie to incorporate Ra's al Ghul or Ra's al Ghul into the role of the mentor for Batman, where he trains him and teaches him the ropes, makes him kind of a ninja. We haven't really seen that version in a live-action Batman movie before or since. It's always been more of a macho guy in the other versions, or a sleuth kind of guy. This one, he's more of a ninja, which is something different that we haven't seen. Now, we also have two villains in this movie. I guess you could say three technically, but I'm talking specifically about Ra's al Ghul and Scarecrow. Now, the biggest complaint that anybody I know has for this movie is the lack of use of Scarecrow. If you've played the Arkham games, you know how great of a villain Scarecrow can be. Or if you've seen the new Spider-Man movie with Mysterio, that is how Scarecrow should be done. In this movie, Scarecrow's not bad, but he is definitely playing second fiddle to Ra's al Ghul in this. He's not a great villain in this. He's just fine. He's okay. Kind of like Two-Face in The Dark Knight, where he's fine, but he's not supposed to be the main villain, and so he's not written or acted like he is the main villain, where he could have been. And if he was in his own solo movie, he would be a great villain if he was done more like Mysterio was in the new Spider-Man movie. But that aside, Cillian Murphy is great at his performance in this. Very creepy, very strange. And Liam Neeson as Ra's al Ghul is also great. I don't know if there was any real complaints when this came out about the whole switcheroo about having the fake one and then Liam Neeson replacing him, and then I know that there was a complaint with like the Iron Man trilogy when they did something like this. I don't hear anything like that when this came out, but I mean, that was older and I was younger at the time, so I'm not sure if that was an issue, but I've never had a problem with that. I thought that was well done. But then again, I've never been a huge fan of the character of Ra's al Ghul or Ra's al Ghul in the comics or cartoons, so I don't know. This movie isn't the most comic accurate. So if you're approaching this movie for comic accuracy, you're not going to really get that. But ultimately, I don't think that's really something that people care about in comic book movies anymore. You look at the MCU, there's almost no accuracy at all in any of those movies towards the comics whatsoever. So I don't think people really care about that anymore. Regardless, getting back to the plot. So you have Ra's al Ghul training Batman, and then Batman's kind of just disagrees with him on a major moral dilemma where Ra's al Ghul is a more strict, we need to kill the sinners, kill the thieves and the criminals and stuff like that, because if you just punish them, they won't learn, so you have to actually get rid of them. That's something that Batman disagrees with on a moral level, so then he kills a bunch of people and leaves, which, whatever. Anyway, and then Ra's al Ghul follows him to Gotham eventually, of course, leading the charge with Scarecrow as his little minion. This movie doesn't really make a whole lot of sense on a lot of levels if you stop and think about it. Like I said, Batman's no killing rule is completely thrown out the window the second after he says it. There's the microwave emitter, which I know a lot of people have already made fun of, where it's like you have this giant microwave thing turning all the water in all the sewers to gas so that the fear toxin evaporates, and it's like, hasn't anybody made like noodles for anything? Hasn't anybody steamed water for anything? Just taken a really hot shower and like been terrified of the shower all of a sudden? It's like, that doesn't really make sense. But if you're comparing it to the other Batman movies from the 80s and 90s, those are pretty cheesy too. So if you can look past the cheesiness and you can just enjoy the great acting, because it's really great acting, it's got good dialogue, it's got pretty good action sequences, it definitely gets better in The Dark Knight in every way. Pretty much the production value goes up in every way. This movie is a lot of fun, but it does end at a lot of fun. This isn't going to be one of Nolan's more highbrow movies or one of Nolan's more introspective, deep movies. It's got a couple of like one-liners, kind of like akin to the "with great power comes great responsibility." We've got the "why do we fall so we can pick ourselves back up," and it's like, it's good, it's fun, but it is a superhero movie. This isn't really the most brilliant movie ever made, or one of Nolan's like best, most brilliant movies. It is still a cheesy superhero film. Now, he did ground it in reality much better than anybody has ever done in superhero movies, and certainly better than anybody had up until that point. So it was groundbreaking in that way, but it is from a different era where this movie is 14 years old now, but it still does hold up in its own right. You just, if you're coming from, you know, the Avengers Endgame and you're going back, there's some differences where we've learned how to make superhero movies a little bit better since then. Kind of like looking back at the Sam Raimi Spider-Man trilogy, there's a lot of cheese in that. Now, it's great cheese and I love it. I love those Spider-Man movies better than any of the Spider-Man movies that have come out since, but you have to look at it through the lens of when it came out, or it doesn't really hold up the same way. So you have to look at Batman Begins that way too. They were still learning how to make superheroes cool again, because superheroes hadn't really been cool since the downfall of the first Batman series, where you went from Batman and then Batman Returns, which are both successes moderately, and then Batman Forever, which was a success monetarily but not really critically, and then Batman and Robin, which was of course a failure across the board, and then there weren't any real successful superhero movies until the Spider-Man trilogy. And this was in the middle of that. Spider-Man 2 had just come out in 2004, so we were still learning how to make superhero movies again. The first Iron Man came out in 2008, the same year The Dark Knight came out. So this was like in the precursor for making superhero movies good again. It was a process, you know. So it's a lot of fun, but it definitely is a product of its time in a couple of ways. But the acting is so good that I think that makes up for a lot of it. And then Nolan's just a phenomenal director as always in this. So if you don't mind Christian Bale's performance as Batman, which personally I love it, I don't know why it gets all the crap it does, but if you don't mind it, then you're going to enjoy this movie. It's not going to win, well, it didn't win any kind of Oscar for like best director or best screenplay or anything, but it is a lot of fun. So that's what I thought of it anyway. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments below, and of course don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Thanks guys, bye.